Yo, what's up everybody? It's me, Robert Muraine, and welcome back to my apartment here in Paris. It's been about a month since I've done my last video, so my deepest, sincerest apologies to all those who have been expecting material from me. But the news is that I finished my circus contract, my 7-month long touring Finland circus contract. We did over 200 shows in over 150 cities in the entire country. We visited the North Pole, or the closest you can possibly get to it without having to go on some crazy journey. And I thought I would give a little recap of my experience in Finland and the transition back to Paris, which has been proving to be quite a difficult transition. I've left my girlfriend for 7 months and she visited me about 3 times while I was in Finland. So that's been an interesting experience, coming home to my girlfriend who's literally been waiting for me to come home for 7 months. So that has not been too easy, admittedly. You could only imagine how hard that must be on her and as well as me, because I'm the one who had to make that decision to literally step away from my relationship for 7 months and only be able to bring her when she's not working. So that was actually one of the biggest complications of the entire circus and transition back to Paris. And but that doesn't take away from the experience overall I had in Finland. Finland was awesome. It was such a healthy and reinvigorating trip for me. I really needed something like this. I'm straight up a city boy, a city slicker, and grew up in Los Angeles my entire youth until I made it on So You Think You Can Dance and ended up traveling the world for the past 11 years. So Finland was definitely a standout experience compared to most of my experiences of traveling. I've never stayed in another country for that long, specifically for work. And it was a really beautiful country to experience that kind of contract in. It's a very open and free air, huge sky, massive plains kind of country. There's not so many mountains or anything topographically tall or low. It's pretty much a flat country, like all around. And I wasn't expecting that. For some reason in Scandinavia, when you think Norway or Sweden, you think mountains and huge ranges of hills and all kinds of crazy stuff. But in Finland, it's actually quite flat. And one of the things that stands out in Finland is the amount of lakes they have. So almost in every city, or every city is based somehow around a lake or near a lake, which makes sense because it's obviously a source of food and transportation and fun, because there's also not so much to do in the countrysides of Finland except for like outdoors, sports and hiking and these kinds of things. So again, it was a great experience for a city boy like me to be kind of dropped into this very foresty, wildernessy kind of country, totally outside of my comfort zone. But I actually fell in love with it. And because of this really healthy experience, kind of like the army being in the circus, waking up at 6 a.m. or earlier every day, cleaning out the caravan, hooking it onto the truck, driving about 100 kilometers to the next city, taking it all back out, building it up, waiting for the tent to be built up. It was really like an army kind of experience, or what I imagine as an army. I've never been in the army, but I imagine the whole waking up and organizing your life in 30 minutes and then setting out on the road to do your work kind of has some similarities to the army life. I always joke that it was like a gypsy army, and it really is kind of an extended gypsy culture, I guess you could say, the whole traveling circus thing. A lot of people kind of joke about it in a like racist way, but it literally is that kind of culture. We're nomads traveling from city to city, trying to get work, it's a really, really rich experience. And 7 months of that has really changed the way I think about everything, and the way I go about my daily life in Paris has completely changed. I lost about 5 kilos, about 10 pounds on this tour, which is exactly where I need to be at now. Doing the shows and doing my dancing and performances, I could do a lot crazier stuff than I was able to for the past few years because I was seriously out of shape and I didn't realize how out of shape I was until this tour. So this tour has been all around a really healthy experience. And I know you guys want to hear more about Finland, but my experiences are obviously at the forefront of my forehead. So Finland, the people, let's go with the people. This is gonna be a random video. I'm just gonna kind of shoot off a bunch of memories and thoughts throughout this video, so I apologize if it seems like kind of random. I'm not being interviewed or anything, and I haven't prepared any kind of timeline of how I would break this down. I thought I would just kind of do it how I'm doing now. So the people, Finnish people, are super real, no bullshit, no acting, no changing chameleon to fit the situation or the scenario. You are getting the realest of the real person that you are engaging with, and I love that. Especially being from LA, where everyone kind of does the chameleon thing and adjusts their personality to your personality. There's none of that going on in Finland. Everyone is 100% gonna give you exactly what they think exactly at that time, and thank you, because we need more of that in the world. There is not a lot of people that are able to be real, as weird as that sounds. And I feel like I connected really well with most Finnish people that I met. This real exchange is exactly how I like to be. I like to tell people exactly what's on my mind and not sugarcoat anything. So it was a really fun experience having these conversations, especially over a few glasses or during karaoke, which is a huge part of Finnish culture. Imagine that. I did not know how huge it was until the first week I was there and our boss Kalle took us to a karaoke bar. Finnish people, pretty much like, I would say 90% of them can all sing. And they all sing like incredibly well. Really well. And it's like a performance and there's contests for karaoke and people get dressed up in costumes. The majority of the youth kind of do metal karaoke, so like they all have like the real like screaming throaty technique thing that happens with it's so Scandinavian and it's so awesome. It's so random, and this was one of the highlights of the whole trip because I started getting into karaoke and I kind of have my playlist now and like it was really fun. So karaoke, the people, the late night drinking, like you have to imagine we went to 150 cities, and off the top of my head, like I wouldn't even be able to rename most of these cities. These places were super small in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the countryside where there's no entertainment, and the circus comes around once a year and brings this huge crazy show to these very small towns. And don't get me wrong, the circus, it seats about 1,250 people, and we'd pretty much fill up the circus every time. So we'd go to these small towns in the middle of nowhere in Finland, and everyone in the whole town would show up and watch the circus. So it was really a freaking crazy experience to be dropped in the middle of nowhere. I don't even know where my train of thought went. I was supposed to finish some point, but I don't know where I am anymore. Anyways, next subject. The small cities and the amount of people that attended the circus was also super surprising and really nice, because you'd go to this town and you'd be like, how are we gonna fill up 1,250 seats? You go to the town and you're like, how are there that many people living here? And then sure enough, when it was circus time, like the people poured in from all around, and it was huge and hype and people were in it, and it was a really, really, really rich experience, like I keep saying. The amount of people that I met and friends I've made, shout out to all of you. I know there's a lot of new followers on my YouTube that are from Finland, and hello, and kiitos for following me and following my experience. I hope you guys like my shows in Finland. That brings me to the TV part, because we did, if you didn't watch my last vlog, I don't even know what side it's on anymore. I'm always mixing up the sides. Check out this vlog up here. It was the last video I posted, and we did some TV at the end of the season. And it was a charity TV thing, so it was like on special channel, and people were able to donate while watching the circus. It was like a winter thing, and it was really fun to be on TV in Finland. In Helsinki especially, when we got to Helsinki, which is the capital city of Finland, or the new capital city of Finland, things completely felt different. We were in a proper European city and people were going crazy, and then because it was a little, all right, maybe I was exaggerating a little bit. It wasn't like everyone was going crazy in all these small towns all over Finland. It's a little bit of a reserved crowd. They don't watch shows all the time, like I said. Circus comes to these small towns like once a year, and that's like, for the most part, the entertainment that people are gonna get for that year. So, I mean, I'm not speaking for everybody, but for the most part, people don't really leave their towns. From what I gathered, speaking to random people in these towns, like, people pretty much stay in their town and do their thing, like anywhere, or anyone else does. I didn't really leave Los Angeles much because that's where I'm from until work started, so I could relate. And it was a huge difference between the experience in the circus in Helsinki and then the rest of the country, because in Helsinki it was a little bit more of a trendy crowd. The people know what's going on in the world and are a little bit more experienced watching shows. They've probably seen operas and gone to theaters and stuff. So there was a little bit more of a theater culture. And so the people were applauding like crazy and screaming and hollering and cheering, and there's a lot more youth in Helsinki coming to the circus. So it was a really cool experience doing the TV experience in Helsinki, where the crowd was really crazy. And if you watch the video that I was in, you can see the reactions of the people and how much they were affected by these performances. And it was a really inspiring experience. Performing in the circus, not only the whole circus thing, but performing what I do, popping and bone breaking, basically, and comedy and all this stuff mixed up in a weird ball. Performing that for Finnish people who don't really have too much, or don't really have any idea about popping and bone breaking and stuff. So it was really part of that rich experience that I keep talking about, was sharing my art and my expression with people that don't really know about it or have only seen it through YouTube videos or what have you. Which brings me to another point, how crazy it is how many people in Finland knew who I was. It was overwhelmingly, like, I don't want to get too much into this, it's gonna come off as arrogant, but like, the truth of the matter is that like a bunch of people knew who I was and seen my audition on So You Think You Can Dance. And once they've seen me in the circus, they'd like freak out and come find me in my caravan after and want to take pictures and stuff. And this happened really often, and I was super surprised that people remember that video from 11 years ago and still recognize me. And it might be because I do the exact same routine practically, but it was still really humbling, and it was crazy to imagine that people on the other side of the world, so far away from our culture in the States, were able to recognize me through my dancing and my style. So yeah, it's really flattering, as well as it is really humbling. It's just a crazy experience to have all these strangers know who you are after not being in the public eye for so long. So yeah, that was fun. And back to this experience in Paris. Crazy Horse started about a day, or actually I thought I was going to start Crazy Horse, which is a cabaret here in Paris, the day after my contract ended in Finland. So I was really stressed until like the last week, where they announced that I don't have to perform the day after I arrive. I perform a couple days later, so I had a couple days off to readjust to my life here in Paris. And came back to the cabaret, which only seats about 300 maximum people. And the stage is one-dimensional, so there's no sides or back. And when you think about the circus, it's in the round. And I'd have to give my attention in all directions. And so I changed my whole routine to where there were certain points where I'd be looking this way, or certain points where I do tricks this way or in the front, and I'd have to kind of rotate my body around during my act to make it a much more full experience for everyone that's watching. Crazy Horse, on the other hand, is about, I don't have enough room or space to like lift up my arms. My hands are cut off by the curtain in Crazy Horse, and the carpet, or the floor is carpet. It's not an actual wooden or marley floor. And there's no sides. It's about a couple meters wide and a couple meters deep. And so it's a really weird experience performing for over 1,000 people every night for 7 months, 6 nights a week. And then coming to Paris and having to perform for a quarter of the people or less on a way smaller stage in a way more intimate atmosphere, where the front row is like less than 1 meter away from me, like 3 or 4 feet away is the first person in the first row at Crazy Horse. To whereas in the circus, I'm on a stage within the stage and people are so far, so I'm projecting super far away, looking at the backs of the audience, and now everyone's like face to face with me. That transition is crazy. And because I got accustomed to performing in the circus, my aura, or like the way I project my energy towards, or communicate my energy towards the audience or to the audience, is huge. I have this tendency to be very big, and this happens a lot to many artists, especially, for example, when me and my girlfriend go on tour with Crazy Horse. When we do the tour, we're outside of the cabaret in Crazy Horse. So when we go on tour, say we go to Moscow or something, we go to this huge, I don't know, stadium, or not stadium, but like an amphitheater or something, and they set up the same stage and the same size as Crazy Horse, but in a way bigger venue. So we might have like 600 to 1,000 people watching. And after you do these tours, doing the same exact show that you do in the small cabaret in Paris, and then you come back to the cabaret after performing for 1,000 people, it's like you're performing for a huge room in a really small room, and it's really obvious to people that may have seen you perform in Crazy Horse before that you're totally different when you're performing. So I'm like projecting to the back of the room, and there's all these people in the front of me, and I really had to, it took me a week or two to adjust to that distance between the audience, because it totally changes the dynamic between the communicating between the audience and the artist. So that's a trippy experience, and that's an inside experience that probably a lot of people don't realize. So having said all that, I don't really know what else to talk about. It's going on 20 minutes, this monologue, and that's actually way longer than I was anticipating. But I mean, 7 months of experience is pretty crazy. I will say a couple of more things. One of the best experiences for me doing this whole circus thing in Finland was waking up early and doing the drive. That 150 to 100 kilometers, or even more sometimes, every morning was completely out of what I've been experiencing in my life, for the past 15 years. I don't have to normally wake up. I do dancing full time. Like, this is my job. This is my career, and it has been for the last 11 years, and hopefully will be for the rest of my life. So the last time I've had to sit in traffic or wake up early or like do this kind of 9 to 5 deal it's been over 11 years. It was like back when I was 18, and I'm 33 now. So, I mean, it's even way longer than what I'm thinking. It's been 15 years since I've had like a normal job where I had to wake up and do that whole routine. And in the circus, I tasted once again what it's like to have to do the routine, you know, the 9 to 5 thing, because it is an all day, it's a full-time job, 100%. I mean, even living in Paris, I'm living here for my job, basically. Of course, with my girlfriend as well, but the whole reason I live in Paris is to work here at Crazy Horse. It's like home base, and all the rest of live show work is all in Europe, so it's important for me to stay in Europe. And I hadn't experienced that 9 to 5 life since I was back in the States, and this tour in Finland reminded me a lot of what it was like to have to wake up early and do that whole 9 to 5 thing. And trust me, I'm so privileged and lucky to be experiencing the life that I have. waking up late, going to sleep late, doing shows at 11 p.m. and that's my work. And I'm really grateful for everything that has gone in that direction because it's made my life obviously a lot easier, and I have time to do YouTube videos and explore other stuff, do music. But in Finland, I had 7 months of that 9-to-5 feeling, but it's even, I would say, even more vigorous of a life experience than the whole normal 9-to-5 thing, because it's your life 24/7. It's not a 9-to-5 thing, it's all the time. And you know, you don't have electricity all the time. In Finland, it gets really cold, and so pipes and hoses freeze, so you don't have water. Sometimes you don't have hot water. Things happen in the circus. You're not in a normal type of civilization. You're literally nomadic, and you're relying on generators and workers and weather and nature to bring you your comfort. And so, yeah, it was a really crazy experience to be like 100% of the time working. And during these 7 months, we only had 11 days off. So we were working practically all the time, every day, always. So coming back to Paris has been humbling. Everything, I'm doing way more. I only did my dancing act in Sirkus Finlandia. I wasn't doing my hat tricks and my volunteer act or my striptease. At Crazy Horse, I do so much more work on stage. I have so much more time on stage, and I get to explore you get to see my universe a little bit more when you watch me at Crazy Horse. Unfortunately, I can't film anything in Crazy Horse. I might be able to this year. I'm gonna ask if I can film my new act, but that's aside from the point. When I came back and I started working at Crazy Horse, even though I have way more time on stage, I have a different costume, I have so much more work to do, like actual work for being on stage. I have so many props, and I have to iron a bunch of clothes because I have to change really fast in between numbers. I have to do lots of stuff at Crazy Horse. And I didn't do nearly even half of what I was doing on stage in Finland, but in Finland, the work was so much harder because we had to wake up early every day. The lack of sleep, the lack of comfort, walking from the caravan to the backstage in the absolute freezing weather, being a flexible contortionist kind of artist. All these details made my basic job really difficult. And coming back to Paris and being in a cabaret where everything's kind of red carpet and champagne, it makes it feel like easy. So that's one of the biggest changes for me in my life from being in Finland, is that experience, it being so rich and actually so difficult at times, made my old life, my Paris life and my Los Angeles life, feel really easy. And I'm really grateful. It really put a lot of things in perspective for me, and I'm really grateful for everything that I've accomplished thus far. And I'm really happy that I took this trip in Finland. And I almost didn't. I'm not gonna get into that story, but they had Finlandia, Sirkus Finlandia had contacted me a year before last year to do, I will get into this, to do the Sirkus Finlandia tour 2 years ago. And we were negotiating, and we were almost about to sign contracts, and then in the last minute I didn't, because I didn't want to leave my girlfriend for so long. It seemed like it was going to be a big problem. So I put that off and had a really tough year because I was expecting to work for 7 months straight in Finlandia, and didn't, and I didn't have any backup plan. So that was why I went to Japan, and I did a lot of stuff this year in the beginning of the year to try and make up for all the money and job I lost last year. So I ended up doing Finlandia the second year, and the production and Kalle, the director, and everyone that is involved is really cool. Really, really nice company, family owned. It's been around for many, many years, since the 70s. And it's a really high class, world renowned circus in Europe. It's one of the best ones you can do as far as how the lifestyle is, and everything is really proper and organized and made to be comfortable. even though it's a hard life, Sirkus Finlandia is known to be one of the most comfortable circuses for artists and workers to be at, as well as one of the best shows in traditional circus in Europe. So it was really an honor to be part of that family and to see how the whole thing works and to learn from them. And that was my first circus experience, my real circus experience, and I feel like the amount of knowledge that I gained from this tour was just insane. And it makes life feel easier, and I have nothing but respect for all the people that live that life. And yeah, it's one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. It's been cool. I've already gotten offers from other circuses in Scandinavia because I've done this one. I've kind of endeared it, and that kind of proves to a lot of other companies that I'm made to be on the road in the circus and the caravan, and I probably will do more tours. I'm not going to probably do it this year, or I mean in 2020, although I was offered a contract in Sweden for 5.5 months to do a tour of Sweden with a company that I will not name because we may do next year instead of this year. But more news on that soon. I think I'll end this video here. It's going on 30 minutes, and that's it for today. My name's Robert Muraine, Mr. Fantastic. Please subscribe. Peace.